Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, welcome to the course Productivity of Management and Engineering with me, Tania Alda from Department of Industrial Engineering, Faculty of Engineering, Universitas Sumatera Utara. Today I would like to begin this course with the topic productivity cycle and productivity classification. Okay, according to Suman, productivity improvement efforts are not momentary activities in the sense that programs are prepared only when productivity improvement is deemed necessary. So, productivity improvement must be carried out on a regular basis in order for continuous improvement to be implemented. And then Suman further said that productivity improvement programs are only successful if they are formal and follow a natural cycle. So it means that the company should have an official policy to conduct productivity cycles for all divisions in the company. And then, okay, we continue our discussion about the productivity cycle. The productivity cycle, the first stage is productivity measurement. And then the next one, productivity evaluation. And then productivity planning. And the last one, productivity engineering. So we have to start from the productivity measurement. And then we can continue after we get all the result, we can continue to make an evaluation. After that, we do the planning for the next period, and then the last one, productivity engineering. Okay, the first, we talk about productivity measurement. The first step that we must do in the productivity cycle is to measure productivity. When we want to measure productivity, we must know all the input and output data used by the company. Without data, we cannot measure optimally. We can measure both total productivity and partial productivity in the company. And then, after we conduct the productivity measurement, we continue to do the productivity evaluation. So, after we measure productivity, the next step is to evaluate it. We can evaluate it based on the result of the productivity measurement that we have done before. By evaluating, we can know the condition and position of the company compared to the various periods. So we can make a comparison to the previous period. We can also know whether the use of resources has been used efficiently or not. Based on the evaluation result, we can identify problems that exist in the company. So we can identify the problems. And then we continue about productivity planning. After we measure and evaluate, then we already know the problems that exist in the company. The next step, we can do planning to improve this condition so that continuous improvement can be carried out regularly. And then the last one, we talk about productivity engineering. After we make a plan, the next step is how we do productivity engineering to improve the performance of the company. So here are the productivity cycle. The first is productivity measurement, and then the next one evaluation, and then the next one planning, and the last one engineering, productivity engineering. So all of you can see that companies that are conducting a formal productivity programs for the first time should start with productivity measurement. Okay, productivity measurement. The result of these measurements are then evaluated to gain clarity on where the company stands in terms of productivity. And then, based on the evaluation results, an improvement plan is developed, including the formulation of long-term goals and short-term targets. It's about the performance of the company. So, this improvement plan is then formally implemented in conjunction with the execution of production activities to achieve the set targets. Okay, we continue for the next session. It's about productivity measurement. Productivity measurement is the first step in productivity management with the aim of obtaining data and information about the degree of productivity achievement of the organization concerned. Productivity measurement, if done regularly, will provide the following benefits. So, there are some benefits if the company conduct the productivity measurement. The first, company management can accurately assess how well each unit of production resources has been utilized this year relative to last year. So we can analyze the production resources, and then we can make a comparison between last year, and then we compare with this period. And then each work unit will receive information about the productivity achievements of each unit so that it can know its position in the company in total. And then the next one, management will get accurate information in assessing what resources are owned, and then we can know the critical and the non-critical resources so that corrective action can be planned for the next period. So, uh, the benefits from the productivity measurement. And then the next one, the result of productivity measurement can be used as one of the main factors in assessing the company's competition, and then we can know the company's competitive position. So we can compare our company's position with other similar companies. And then the company's measurement results are very useful in determining the target that must be achieved in the next period. So it's talk about performance too in the company. And then effective measurement result to motivate the emergence of the company's internal competitive spirit. So the second one, after we conduct the productivity measurement, the next one, we can conduct productivity evaluation. Productivity evaluation is the second phase of productivity management with the aim of obtaining accurate information about the company's progress in the current period relative to the past period. Productivity evaluation is done to get answers to the following questions. So the first, where the company is standing now. We can answer this question. We can compare our company's position with the similar company. Okay, because we have already conduct the productivity measurement, and then we have already made an evaluation, so we can know which are where the company is standing now. And then the second one, what resources have management problems? So we can identify about the problems of resources. Material maybe, capital maybe, machine maybe, energy, or many more. We can identify that. And then which work units have problems? We can answer this question too. Because which division are problematic within the company, we can know about that. And then what are the suggestions for improvement? Of course, we can answer this question because we have already conduct the productivity measurement. We have already identify, or we can conduct the productivity evaluation. We can identify the problems. So for the next, we can make a good planning, and we can give the suggestions for the company for the next period. And then, okay, all of you can see this table. This is there's an output and there's an input, and then output there's product one and then product two, and then input there's labor, material, capital, energy, and others. For example, if we see for the product one and for the labor, there's a 5% increase. So it means that the company has already in the right way. But if we talk about product two, labor and then capital increase, but for the material and energy and others, it's decreased. So for material, it's 4% decrease. So we have to identify what happened in this company. So we can get we can give some suggestions for that. And then if we see for the product one and product two, there's there's an increase, but for the total, for the entire the company, there's 1% decrease. So for the next company uh, has to make a good planning for the next period. So a company can make a good improvement for the next target. Okay, okay, this is the end of the first part of this session. See you again on next session. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, welcome back to the course Productivity of Management and Engineering. Let us continue our discussion about productivity cycle and productivity classification. Okay, in the last session, we have already discussed the measurement and evaluation stage of the productivity cycle. In this session, we will discuss the planning and engineering stage. Okay, we will continue our discussion about productivity planning. Productivity planning is the third phase of productivity management and aims to obtain an improvement plan for the productivity that has been achieved. Planning is done by making the evaluation result as the main input. So it's for the main input. So in this stage, the input is the evaluation stage. In the evaluation stage, we already know the problems that must be improved for the future. And then the first step in short-term productivity planning is to determine the target to be achieved in the next period, formulate the means to achieve, develop a schedule and resource requirements, labor, material, capital, energy, cost, and so on, and implementation and control mechanism. So we can see that about the input labor, materials, capital, energy, and many more. And then after we know the problem from the production resources, maybe we can make an improvement plan for the future. And this planning stage becomes the third stage in the productivity cycle. Okay. Okay, the next one it's about productivity engineering. Productivity engineering is the fourth phase of productivity management. Productivity improvement is a form of implementation of the plan that has been prepared in the third phase. Productivity improvement can be done in several ways, including so in productivity engineering, there are several methods that can be used to improve the condition of a company or maybe an organization. Here are maintenance management, value engineering, production scheduling, quality control, and reliability engineering. So for the reliability engineering, we will discuss more in the next session. Okay, for the first, we will discuss about maintenance management. Maintenance management is a formal approach to the maintenance of production facilities, maybe machinery or maybe equipment, so that they can function according to the expected characteristic, maintainability, and reliability characteristics. So all of you can see that maintenance management is an effective management tool to cut down maintenance costs and increase human productivity, fixed capital productivity, and energy productivity. Okay, the next one we will discuss about value engineering. So, value engineering is a systematic method to improve the value of goods and also service by using an examination of function. Value is the ratio of function to cost and it therefore can be increased by either improving the function or reducing the cost. So it's about value engineering. And then the next one, it's about production scheduling. What is production scheduling? Production scheduling is the process of determining when products will be manufactured to maximize efficiency while limiting stockouts and unbalanced inputs and outputs. This process includes optimizing where, when, how, and what material you will use to manufacture your products. It's about production scheduling in the company. And then the next one, it's about quality control. Okay, quality control can be defined as part of quality management focused on fulfilling quality requirements, while quality assurance relates to how a process is performed or how a product is made. Quality control is more the inspection aspect of quality management. It's about inspection for the product. An alternate definition is the operational techniques and activities used to fulfill requirements for quality. And then, if we talk about reliability engineering, okay, reliability engineering is the probability that a system, machine, or tool that is produced is able to function properly within a certain time limit set. The higher the time limit set, the lower the reliability and vice versa. The lower the time limit set, the higher the reliability of the system, machine, or tools. Okay, this is about productivity engineering. So we have already know what is maintenance management, value engineering, production scheduling, quality control, and reliability engineering. Okay, for the next one. So the next one, we will discuss about identification of outputs and inputs. Productivity measurement involves a number of key activities, two of which are the measurement of outputs and inputs. These two entities are often not easy to measure due to various situations and conditions. So we need the data. If there is no data, we cannot make a valid calculation. So the key point is the data in the company. So output. Output is the entire output of the associated production system. So if we see from this drawing, input and then organization system or the process, and then output. Output is divided into two, namely tangible output and then intangible output. So if we talk about tangible output, it's about countable like physical and non-physical input. It's about product is produced by the company. And then if we talk about intangible output, it can be like a goodwill brand for the company. And then the next one, input is the entire supply into the relevant organization or company system. So, input can be human, material, capital, energy, and others. For the capital, uh, input capital is divided into two, namely fixed capital, like maybe we have building, machine, equipment, and many things. And for the current capital, it's maybe like account receivable or many things. So that is the process, organization system, and the output tangible and intangible. But according to Suman, we just already used for the tangible output for the valid calculation. And then the next one, we will continue to discuss about productivity classification. Productivity can be classified into three types. The first, total productivity. The second one, partial productivity. And the last one, total factor productivity. The first, total productivity. Total productivity is the ratio of total output to total input. So, for the total productivity, we have to know all inputs used by the company, and then we have to know all outputs produced by the company. And then for the partial productivity, the ratio between the output produced and one of the input used. So if we want to make a calculation for the partial productivity, we have to know all output produced by the company, and then we have to know the data for one of the input used, maybe for the capital, maybe material, human, or many more. And so we want to see the use of material inputs in the company if we want to make a calculation for the partial productivity. And then the last one, it's about total factor productivity. The ratio of total output to the input of human and capital resources used to produce that output. So, in the total factor productivity, we just talk about input of human and capital. And okay, input of human and capital. Okay, this is the end of the session. See you again on next session. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, welcome to the course Productivity of Management and Engineering with me Tania Alda from Department of Industrial Engineering, Faculty of Engineering, Universitas Sumatera Utara. Today I would like to begin this course with the topic Reliability Engineering. Okay, for the first, we have to know the introduction about the reliability engineering. Every product produced, especially technological products such as machines, control equipment, and others, is always designed to perform certain function. There's a function for the machine and for the many things. Various criteria are used to measure success in implementing this function, one of which is reliability. Okay, the next, reliability is the probability that a system, machine, or tool that is produced can function properly within a specific time limit set. The higher the time limit set, the lower the reliability, and vice versa. The lower the time limit set, the higher the reliability of the system, machine, or tools. So this is for example, if a generating set is operated for 3 hours continuously, so we want to make a comparison if the generating set is operated for 5 hours continuously. So if generating set is operated for 3 hours continuously to like a room, it will be less likely to experience damage than if it's operated for 5 hours continuously. So the time limit is influenced for the reliability engineering. Okay, some principles that need to be understood in product design to get high built-in reliability are the first, the more parts or components the product has, the lower the reliability level. It's about the component and effect for the reliability level. And then the second one, the higher the complexity, it's about complexity for the product, for the function of the product design, the lower the possibility of all components functioning simultaneously and will lower the reliability level. So it's about the complexity for the product. And then for each part that has low reliability when parallel, the composite reliability of the part will increase. So it's about serial type and then parallel type. And then a system or product is generally arranged in a configuration that can be divided into serial, parallel, or mixed types. So there are three types: serial type, and then parallel type, and then the last one, it's mixed type, as shown in the figure below. So this one is for the serial type. If we make an example, this one is P1 and this is P2. And then if the P1 is damaged, it will affect for the P2. So the system cannot operate well. But it's different if we talk about the parallel system. If we make an example, this is P1 and this is P2. If P1 is damaged and there is no correlation or connection for the P2, the system can be operate well. And then this one for the mixed one. And then, for example, this is A, this is B. For B, we make a parallel system. So if the P1, for example, P1 and P2, and this is for P3, maybe the P1 is damaged, the P2 can be used for the system. So the system can operate well. Okay, we will discuss the first for the serial type. In the serial type, the system or product consists of serially installed components. The system or product will function adequately if component 1 and component 2 each function properly. If one of the components does not function, the system will not function. So it affects for the entire of the system if one of the component is damaged. And then in such serial system, the system reliability results from the probability multiplication of each component functioning correctly. Thus, the reliability of a serial system with 2, 3, or n components is as follows. So, all of you can see for this figure, this one for the serial system with two components, P1, P2. So the reliability P1 multiply P2. For example, if we make an example, P1 is 0.5 and then the P2 is 0.5, so the reliability for this system, for the serial system, is 0.25. And then all of you can see for this figure, serial system with three components, P1, P2, and P3. So we can multiply the probability of P1, P2, and P3. And then the next one, in this serial system, it can be seen that if one or more components have high failure characteristic indicated by a low probability of functioning, the reliability of the entire system will be low, of course, because there's an effect for that. In extreme situations, the total system will fail if one component fails. This one about serial system with n components. So the reliability P1 multiply P2, P3 until so on. And then for the example of a serial type system can be seen, for example, For the illustration, maybe in a small photocopy business where the components are the first, there's photocopy machine, the second, operator, and the third, paper material. If one of the component, maybe we talk about photocopy machine is breakdown and a component is unavailable, maybe all the system cannot operate well because uh, for the photocopy machine, operator, and paper material is available if we want to make an operate well, an operating well. If one of these components fails because it is damaged or unavailable, photocopy activity will not be carried out. It's for the illustration for the serial type. And then this one about parallel type, a system whose constituent components are parallel system is called a parallel type system. Parallel of component can consist of two, three, or more elements. If two or more photocopiers are installed in a photocopy business, like the example above, the possibility of failure will decrease. So if we have P1, P2, if P1 is damaged, there is no correlation for P2. P2 can operate well, and of course, the system can operate as usual. And then this one, all of you can see this one for the parallel system with three components, P1, P2, and then P3. Okay, if P1 is the probability of the component functioning in the parallel type system, then the likelihood that the element will fail, not functioning, is 1 minus P1. Unlike the serial type system, in a parallel type system, if one component fails, the system as whole will not fail. As a whole will not fail. The system will fail if all the parallel components fail. If all the parallel components fail. In a system with two parallel components, the system will fail if component fails, component 1 fails, and then the component 2 fails simultaneously. And then we can see that a parallel system fails when component 1 and component 2 fail simultaneously. So this one for the reliability system for the parallel type. Okay, this is the end of the first part of this session. See you again on next session. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, welcome back to the course Productivity of Management and Engineering. So let us continue our discussion about reliability engineering. Okay, previously we have already discussed about serial type and parallel type. So for this one, we will discuss about serial and parallel type or mixed type. A system with serial and parallel constituent components is called a mixed type system. The schematic model of a mixed system is shown in the diagram below. The system is generally of serial type with three components A, B, and C, where some or all components are parallel. So, in this figure, all of you can see that actually this is for the serial, but for A, we make it parallel, and for C, we make it parallel. So A parallel, B and C parallel. Okay, in this slide, all of you can see that mixed system reliability. So if we compare with the diagram, we have to make a calculation for the A, for the A as a parallel type, and then we have to make a calculation for the C as a parallel type. If we have already get the result, so we can multiply A, multiply B, and multiply C. For example, if the probability of components 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are 0.80 and then 0.75, 0.90, and then 0.70, 0.85, and the last 0.80 respectively, then the reliability of the system is. So we have to calculate for the A. After we get the result, we continue to make a calculation for the C because A and C, it's the parallel type. After we get the result for the probability of A, B, and C, after that we can calculate and A multiply B and multiply C. So we can get the result for the reliability for the mixed type. Okay, this one for the case study. PT Global Electronic, an electronics industry company, has just signed a long-term contract for its flagship product. Under the agreement, the company must produce and deliver its product to its contract partner for the next 5 years at 6,000 units per year each. This is in the contract. The company operates on a batch system in 3 daily shifts with a production capacity of 20. So, production capacity per a day, just 20 daily units. The contract also requires that deliveries be made of 200 units. So, for each shipment, the time needed to produce a batch of 200 units is 10 days. Because of the capacity for a day just 20 and we have to deliver 200 units, so we need 10 days to make it. The number of working hours per day is 7 effective hours. So the number of working hours per day is 7 effective hours. And then the next, the production process uses three types of electronically operated machines. These three electronic machines are installed serially. So the company used serial type for the first because we can make an alternative. The results of engineering tests on each of them show that the probability of each machine functioning correctly within 10 days of operation is 0.95, 0.85, and 0.90 for 10 days of continuous operation, respectively. This data shows that there is a chance that the production process will fail because of the probability of the machine. The selling price of the product based on the contract is $80 per unit. And then with the provision that failure to meet the delivery target will result in a penalty. There is a penalty of 25% from the selling price. Data on machine price, life, and residual price are as follows. Okay, the next one, the total value of inputs including labor, materials, energy, and others based on current conditions excluding repair costs in case of failure is 40%. So 40% for labor, material, energy, and others of the selling price. So from the $80, 40% from the $80 of the selling price per unit with a composition of 20% for labor, 35% for materials, and 45% for energy. If the manufacturing facility fails so that the process stops, it takes 3 days to repair with an average cost of materials and mechanical wage of $1,000 per day. Okay? And then the next, maintenance of each machine is carried out periodically at the end of each batch for 0.5% of the acquisition value of the machine. So in this table, all of you can see that for the machine A, B, and C, and then the price, useful life, reliability, and salvage value for the machine. And then a parallel policy for specific components or for machines can reduce the failure frequency. If the number of working days is 300 days per year, analyze the parallel policy's total productivity and capital productivity with the company. Not for any technology product, including machines used as production facilities, the increase in service life will reduce the machine's reliability. For the case study above, the reliability of each machine at the age of 2, 3, 4, and 5 years is as follows. So all of you can see in this table for the machine A, B, and C, and useful life for the second, third, fourth, and fifth. This is the probability of the machine. And then in this figure, all of you can see that this is for the serial type P1, P2, and P3. So the reliability system for the serial type is 0.72. But if we make a parallel type, maybe this one for A, B, and C, we make a parallel type for the B, the reliability for the parallel type is increased for 0.83. So it's better than before. And then for the case study, for the existing, the machine operates in a serial configuration. So if we make a multiply for A, B, and C, we get the result. The reliability for the serial system, serial type, is 0.73. Because the number of working days per year is 300 and each batch is 10 days long, the number of run per year is 30. So total of run is 30. Because of reliability is 0.73, the number of successful run is 21.9 and the number of failed run is 8.1. And then from the case study, all of you can fill this table, number of working days, 300, and then you can fill another row of this table, number of working days failed due to the system, number of working days failed. So we know that the run for the fail is 8.1. So we can calculate 8.1 multiply 300 days. And then number of plane output, estimate number, and so on. All of you can fill using the data from the case study. And then after all of you fill the first table, you can continue to fill the second table. It's about to calculate for the total productivity and also the capital productivity for the partial productivity. And also we can make an analysis from this table. And then after we know the existing condition, we can make alternative. For the first alternative, if the machine A operates in parallel. So if we make a parallel type for the machine A, the reliability is 0.99. And then if we calculate for the serial type, the reliability is 0.73. Is increased, of course. And then for the alternative 2, machine B operates in parallel, so the reliability 0.70, 0.97, 97. Okay, and then for the alternative 3, machine C operates in parallel, the result is 0.99. So we have already made a alternative 1, 2, and then 3. And we can make an evaluation and we can choose the best one for the future. Okay, this is the end of the session. See you again on next session. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.